Well, welcome to this episode here. One of my goals in these short videos is to give Providence a little bit of a background and contextual information regarding the sermon as a way of just bringing everybody along and on where we are in our studies. We find ourselves currently on Mark chapter 8. I'm going to type here Mark chapter 8, verses 22 through 26. And we're going to approach the Gospel of Mark, and I'm going to read it from the NASB. And they came to Bethesda, and they brought a blind man to him, and he entreated him to touch him. And taking the blind man by the hand, he brought him out of the village, and after spitting on his eyes and laying his hands upon him, he asked him, "Do you see anything?" And he looked up and said, "I see men, for I am seeing them like trees walking about." Then again, he laid his hands upon his eyes, and he looked intently and was restored and began to see everything clearly. And he sent him to his home, saying, "Do not even enter the village." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I want to just offer a minute or two of reflection on this passage here. What we see in Mark chapter 8, beginning verse 22 through 26, is a new section of Mark. And in some ways, it's a new section, but it also is the ending of the Galilean ministry of Jesus. Now, why is it a new section? It's a new section because, as I've said before, the Gospel of Mark brings about this threefold description of the ministry of Jesus, these activities. The activities are miracles. They are, we could say, confrontations and interpretations or explanations. In other words, when Jesus performs a miracle, very often the next aspect of that miracle is a confrontation concerning that miracle. Who are you to do this? Or who do you say that you are? Or how dare you do this on the Sabbath? Or whatever it may be. There's a confrontation. And we've just seen this previously in Mark chapter 8, where Jesus arrives and he is confronted by Pharisees who begin to argue with him. And Jesus responds by saying, "I will not give you a sign." In the parallel passages, it says that he will give them a sign, which is the sign of Jonah, meaning essentially that those who responded to repentance, like the Ninevites, they will stand in judgment over this generation who has rejected the message of Messiah Jesus. And we also saw that the disciples were having a difficult time sort of grasping the message of Jesus. They were so concerned about the thing that was in front of them, namely the one loaf of bread, that they had essentially forgotten the miraculous nature of Jesus' ministry. He had just multiplied bread to the 4,000, to the 5,000, and now the disciples find themselves completely enamored by their circumstance. And we come to verse 22 of Mark chapter 8. We begin a new section of miracles, and that section, again, will be led by a confrontation and then an explanation. We'll see this in the end of Mark chapter 8. And as we enter into this little pericope, this little text, verses 22 through 26, we're going to see a miracle of a blind man. And this blind man, again, is a reflection of the blindness of Israel as they're being led by false religious leaders, being led by the Herodian political hierarchy. And also, we'll see that this blindness is also a reflection of the disciples who, at this point in the ministry of Jesus, is still blind to the bigger picture, the bigger scenario, the bigger kingdom image that Jesus is painting. But little by little, they begin to see. Little by little, they begin to acknowledge. And little by little, they begin to prepare themselves for the entrance into Jerusalem, which is the beginning of the Lenten season, a season where the disciples need to be prepared and self-aware of their role and function as those who take up their cross and follow Jesus, the Messiah. Thanks very much. I look forward to seeing you all on this Lord's Day.